not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls before swine, or they will trample them underfoot and turn and maul you.
So here we are, 2/3 of the way through the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus has just spoken so clearly about being people who don't judge, and then reminds his followers of the need for discernment using one of the strangest analogies you might ever have come across in the Bible. Giving holy things to dogs? Pearls and pigs? What's all that about? So let's unpack it in two ways. Firstly, let's look at the specific words and phrases that are used. Do not give what is holy to dogs. What's meant by that word holy? Well, there are some mixed views on this. Our safest response is probably to say that the word holy means anything that might be offered to God. Old Testament teaching, and especially bear in mind there's a reference to dogs here, would suggest sacrificial meat. Exodus 29:33, when speaking about the ordination of priests, says, "They shall eat the food by which atonement is made to ordain and consecrate them, but no one else shall eat of it, because it is holy." So it's maybe that. Some think, though, it's a reference to communion, the holy meal of bread and wine that Jesus shared with his disciples and that we still take part in today. I think this one probably feels less likely because his followers wouldn't even have known that meal in the same way at the time. My sense is that it's talking about the good news of Jesus, speaking good things of God, holy things into people's lives, which of course leads us to ask, who exactly is being referred to as a dog here? Well, bad news, I'm afraid. This one's not 100% clear either. It could refer to the Gentiles, the non-Jews. The clue for this is found later in Matthew when Jesus talks about dogs on another occasion and seems to be referring to anyone who's not Jewish. Another possibility is that it refers to those who are cynical of who Jesus is. The word cynic in Greek, the language the New Testament was originally written in, is kynikos, which literally means to be dog-like. Either way, this is probably a reference to those people most likely to reject the good news of Jesus, and is backed up in the even stranger comments about pearls and pigs. Pearls were highly valued in the ancient Middle East. Why on earth would you consider giving something that valuable to a pig who would have no chance of seeing it for what it is? Something beautiful, something of great value. As the text suggests, their response would probably just be to trample it underfoot, maybe even to go for you because they had an opportunity, which brings me back to thinking that this is about the good news of Jesus. The point being, don't waste your words on those who are not willing to listen, who reject it outright, who don't understand it and therefore won't even give it or you the time of day. Once again, it's not the only time that Jesus will refer to this. In Matthew 10:14, he says to his followers, "If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, shake off the dust from your feet as you leave that house or town," i.e. leave quickly, don't let it get to you. It makes sense, but let's be honest, that's a tough call. The Bible is clear that life through knowing Jesus is for everyone. So how do we make the call who to share it with or not? Well, not for the first time, I think this is Jesus talking about relationship. It might be us trying to build relationship with someone so that we can share the gospel with them, but it's only through our relationship with God, us walking in tune with him, that we're able to discern if this is someone that God is already working in. It places prayer, closeness to God, right alongside our sharing of the good news, relying on God for the right words and relying on God even as to who to speak to in the first place, doing it all in his strength, not our own. So there's one explanation from looking at the individual words and phrases. But very briefly, there's another that comes from looking at how these teachings of Jesus follow on from one another. The end of chapter 6 was focused on the theme of do not worry. It was a reminder to us that we so often try and control things. We want to know that we have everything covered for today and tomorrow, rather than trusting God for it. Jesus was reminding us that getting rid of anxiety and stress doesn't come from getting as much stuff as we can. It comes from entrusting our lives to God, turning it all over, surrendering it. That's then followed at the start of chapter 7 with Jesus' teaching on judging others. This is not about entrusting ourselves to God, but entrusting others to Him. Rather than trying to control how others might live through judging them and saying or thinking negative, disapproving things about them, we place them into God's hands. Which brings us to this verse, verse 6. And the thought that what Jesus is saying here is that we also have to entrust others to God when we're sharing the good news. It's not on us. We can't control how someone might respond, and neither should we try, even though the message is the best one they might ever hear. If we're forcing this good thing on them and they're not ready, it could even have the opposite effect, make them angry, make them even more cynical. Think about the people that have influenced you the most. The people that you want to be around, the people who have a peace that you want. The chances are they have a non-anxious presence about them, a calmness and stillness that comes from the peace they found for themselves in God. When they share something with you, you don't feel pressured, but interested. You trust them, whether you choose to listen or not. This is a powerful reminder from Jesus that the sharing of the good news about Him, even who we choose to share it with, is not on us. We're called to play our part, but we can never control the response, and neither should we try. In fact, the greatest thing we can do is entrust someone else's life into God's care. Keep praying for them, and then be ready to move when the Holy Spirit starts working in them. All of that from an instruction not to give holy things to dogs or pearls to pigs. Who'd have thought?